Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a book review for The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. The way that I structure my review is I discuss the plot, the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, and then I give the book an overall rating, so please check the timestamps in the description box below if you want to skip around. And I will also be discussing spoilers at the end of this video, so if you do not want to be spoiled, then please make sure you're checking those timestamps. The Maidens is a psychological thriller published by Alex Michaelides. It is his second book, and it is riding the coattails of his very successful book, The Silent Patient. I do have a full review for The Silent Patient, and I'll link it up in the cards if you're interested in checking it out. And the whole reason I picked this book up is because I enjoyed The Silent Patient so much. So did The Maidens live up to the hype of The Silent Patient? You'll just have to stay tuned and find out. The Maidens follows a main character named Mariana, and she is a group therapist. She ends up becoming entangled in a series of murders at Cambridge University, where she used to be a student and where her niece Zoe still attends. And Zoe is Mariana's kind of like adopted daughter. Her parents died when she was very young, so Mariana has been a mother-like figure in Zoe's life for a long time. Now, the murders that have been occurring at Cambridge University are actually some of Zoe's friends. The main suspect is a Greek tragedy professor named Edward Fosca. Edward Fosca is adored by people at the university and his students, and he has this special group of students known as the Maidens. As Mariana delves deeper into the secrets of these murders, she is forced to confront some things in her own life and her past that connects everything together. Moving on into the things that I liked, Alex Michaelides knows how to write books that keep me wanting to read. The chapters of this book are super short, a couple of pages, and a lot of the times he will end on a cliffhanger that makes you just want to read the next chapter. He is very good at interspersing little tidbits, little clues that really engages the reader. I also really liked the overall premise of this book, a Greek tragedy professor that is accused of these murders, and murders kind of mirror different tragedies in Greek literature. Unfortunately, Greek literature, Greek mythology, any of that has never held my interest, so I am very uneducated in Greek literature. And the author really includes a lot of allusions to a lot of different stories from Greek literature in this book. So I learned a lot, but I cannot verify, whether it was well done or not, because I'm just not familiar with the source material. But the author did do a really good job spelling it out for someone like me who doesn't know Greek tragedies, with explaining the Greek tragedy and how these murders and how these situations kind of parallel what happened in those tragedies. I also really love the setting. We are at Cambridge University, and I have never been there, but the author did a great job at immersing me in the setting, and I felt like I was Mariana back at this university, kind of reliving my college days as a student and seeing things through like a more wizened adult eyes. And I just thought he did a really good job with imagery and atmosphere and setting. Now going on to the things that I didn't like, which is going to be unfortunately a lot more than the things that I did like. Okay, so where to start? All right, so the first thing is Mariana. I didn't really dislike her that much as a character, except for the fact that she just did whatever the heck she wanted, to the point where she was almost obsessed with solving this murder. She was getting in the way of investigators, of police, and she was obsessed with bringing to light the fact that Fosca was killing these women. However, it's clear from the beginning that it's not Fosca, because what a boring thriller book it would be if the author told us who the killer was at the beginning. So Mariana spends all this time obsessing over Fosca when he's not even the killer. One thing I learned with The Silent Patient is that Alex Michaelides tends to bring in a lot of backstory, and the backstory actually does play into the twist at the end. At least in that book it did. In this book it did not, and that was really, really frustrating for me. At the beginning of the book, we learn that Mariana's husband passed away by drowning. And this is definitely not a spoiler. It is literally at the beginning of the book. And so many times throughout the book, we are in Mariana's head as she is grieving her husband. And in fact, at the beginning of this book, there is this whole long sequence backstory of their courtship, how they met, their life together. And it didn't really play into the final plot, because it was almost like a distraction for the reader. I also thought that there were too many red herrings in this book. I can appreciate a good red herring. Riley Sager always throws in a bunch of them, but in this case we have Fosca, We have a guy named Fred who Mariana randomly meets on the train to Cambridge. And then we also have this guy, the security guy that works at the college named Morris. And then obviously we have all of the other maidens in this group that Fosca runs. And the worst part is that none of the people that could have possibly been the murderer ended up being the murderer. Now, what's funny is there are parts of this book that are interspersed with this second point of view. So most of the story is told from Mariana's point of view, but then there are little chapters that are told from the killer's point of view. And I partially listened to this book on audio, and even the audiobook, these chapters were narrated by a man. So I think the author was trying to delve us into the killer's mind from a psychological perspective, because it goes through how he grew up and all the trauma that he went through as a child. And I don't know if Alex Michaelides was trying to garner sympathy from the reader for his character, but it was basically telling how he became this sadistic person that he was. And then when I get into the spoilers, I'm actually going to revisit this concept. And then the last thing I didn't like that includes non-spoilers was the amount of death that was in this book. And what I mean is not the murders. Look at Mariana. Her husband died. Her mother died soon after she was born. The only reason that she is partially raising Zoe is because Zoe's parents died, which if I remember correctly, it was Mariana's older sister. I'm like, I mean, I know people that have lost loved ones and it's horrible and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but what are the likelihood that you lose your mom, your sister, and your husband all in like a span of 20 years? It just was very unrealistic for me, and I know that the author had to do that in order to develop certain ideas within the plot, but like it was very unrealistic. So now I'm going to move on into some more things that I didn't like about this book, and this is going to include spoilers, so please skip over this section if you do not want to be spoiled. So I'm going to go ahead and discuss the reveal. Turns out that Zoe is the one that killed all of these girls. And the reason that she did it is because apparently when Zoe was a teenager, she ended up having an adulterous affair with Mariana's deceased husband, Sebastian. And Sebastian was grooming her and manipulating her and wanted her to carry out his ideals, which included these gruesome murders that parallel these Greek tragedies. And it made no sense. We have Sebastian, who is not even a living character, and the only glimpses we have of them are through Mariana's perspective, and she was a dum-dum, and she had no clue that her husband was a sadistic, evil, violent murderer, pedophile, rapist. How do you not know? I mean, if that guy is that messed up in the head and had this horrific upbringing with all this trauma, that would have leaked into his life with Mariana, in my personal opinion. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm just going off what seems reasonable. But either Mariana was purposely ignoring the signs, or she's just that stupid. And then I just didn't like how there were no clues thrown in. It just came out of the woodwork. It came out of nowhere, this explanation. And I would have rather the author given us little clues that something might have been off with Sebastian and Zoe earlier on in the book, so that me, the reader, I can feel good by putting these clues together and making my own inferences and drawing my own conclusions. But he didn't do that. He just, out of the woodwork, this is what happened, this is the ending. There were no clues, and it was so frustrating because I spent all this time trying to decipher the clues he gave us. Okay, was it Fosca? Was it Morris? Was it Fred? Was it one of the other maidens? And then it was none of them. And then, I mean, what a crap life Mariana has. She grew up with a very authoritarian father. Her mother died when she was young. She didn't have much of a relationship with her sister. And the one person in her life that she loved, her niece, ended up, having a sexual affair with her husband, who, in retrospect, was a sadistic, evil person who ended up dying anyway. I mean, God, this woman needs therapy. And then circling back to the points of view from the man that we had in this book, I'm guessing it was Sebastian whose backstory we were reading about and how he became an evil pedophile, groomer, murderer as an adult. But it never actually says that that's Sebastian's point of view. So when I finished this book, I was like, okay, thinking about it, and I was like, wait, like whose point of view is that supposed to be? It never actually confirmed it, but I'm guessing it was Sebastian, unless it did confirm it, and I just completely missed that. I think at that point I was so frustrated and disappointed with the whole book that I didn't really care. So all in all, you guys, The Maidens was a good start, a good middle, a poorly executed, horrible ending. And the more I sat and thought about it and stewed over it, the more and more I realized I absolutely dislike this book, which is crazy because The Silent Patient was so good as a thriller, in my opinion, one of my favorite thrillers. I ended up giving The Maidens a 2 out of 5 stars. I just feel like it had several missed opportunities. All right, you guys, if you're interested in checking out my review of The Silent Patient or any of my other reviews, I will definitely put that up in the end cards, so check those out. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in another video soon. Goodbye.